Real Health Transformations is a podcast for the woman I once was and the woman I'm still becoming. It's for the new mom trusting her instincts, the seasoned mom questioning the science, and the party girl ready to trade Sunday scaries for sourdough starters. It's for the woman who's wrestled with weight, trauma, chronic illness, and the struggle to find balance in motherhood, career, and life. I'm your host, Holly Jean Mullen, a functional wellness practitioner and holistic real estate specialist. You are the expert on your body, and this show is here to help you cut through the BS, connect the dots between your health and your home, and find simple strategies that actually work for you. We'll have real conversations that matter, challenge the status quo, and keep it simple. If you're craving a calmer home, a clearer mind, or a healthier body, you're in the right place for real solutions, real encouragement, and real transformation. Hello, welcome back to Real Health Transformations podcast. I'm your host, Holly Jean, and today we have a special coaching episode. You are getting a front row seat into a live consultation with a new client. This is someone I am sitting down with for the first time. I mean, I've met her before, but this is our first time sitting down. So you are getting a raw, unfiltered look at what it's actually like to work with me. And typically after this interview portion, I take time to thoroughly review everything that we've discussed, and I go back over health history and interview notes, and that's when I create a comprehensive treatment plan. However, for these episodes, I've just spent a couple hours reviewing intake forms to prepare, but I never know exactly where the conversation is going to lead. So the goal today is to provide my client with the best next step recommendations. And so rather than a fully customized treatment plan, there are two reasons for this approach. And one is for you, the audience. This is going to give you a real glimpse into what it's like to work with me, because I understand how challenging it can be to find the right person to help you on your health journey. And so these episodes just kind of let you have a peek inside the process. So you get to decide if I'm a right fit for you or not, because I don't just do these episodes for ego. That's not what it's here for. And then the other reason is for the client. Like, this session also serves as a way to give back. Like, sometimes all you need is an outside perspective to help you see the bigger picture or to point out something you may have missed, because I strongly believe in empowering people to take charge of their own health. And while we should stop outsourcing our health to others entirely, I also know that sometimes we're just too close to the problem to see it clearly. And also sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So it's nice to have a trusted partner, and it could really just kind of make a difference. So with that, I hope you have a good listen here as we're going to deep dive into this client's health journey. We're going to explore their next best steps toward whatever their transformation is going to lead them to. So to get started, let's meet my guest today, Nicole.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So like I mentioned, this is a recorded session. We're just having a conversation. Any questions before we start?
Nope.
Okay. I will be taking notes as you're talking, but why don't you tell me and like the audience just like a general idea of what your concerns are and what's going on? Like, what are you really hoping to get out of, or what are you needing some help with?
Well, I have had issues with my weight fluctuating for years since having kids, and I did some very strict diets that were probably not very healthy for me. And now I'm finding that I'm gaining that weight back, but I'm also having other health issues along with it. And so I started doing some blood work on my own to investigate and figure out what is going on. And I found that my liver is struggling. My ALT is very high. My cortisol is high, and my thyroid is a little high as well. And so I started doing the carnivore diet in hopes that I could heal some of that. And then kind of an elimination diet, figure out what foods my body actually likes, and then kind of go from there. But I really just want to heal my body and figure that out first before I try to worry about losing all the weight.
Love it. I love that you said you want to heal your body before trying to figure out the weight, because I see this a lot. A lot of times people are like, yes, I want to lose weight, but it's like, well, there's all this other stuff going on in your body. Like your body does not want to carry extra weight, but sometimes it does it for protective mechanisms. Sometimes there's a lot of other things going on. And so a lot of people think, oh, I need to lose weight and then I can get healthy. But no, there's actually like, you need to get healthy, let the body feel safe, and then the weight comes off. So I love that you have that approach and that mindset, because that makes all the difference. Because I will say, like, the added pressure and the stress of like, no, I just want to lose weight. I just want to lose weight. Like that doesn't help anything. Okay. So when did you start carnivore?
I'm in my second week. So I did 3 straight weeks last month. And then I kind of got sidetracked with birthdays and other things going on. And so I added other foods back in and didn't eat strict. But as of last Monday, I'm back strict carnivore, no cheating.
Okay. What were those first 3 weeks like? Did you notice a difference?
Yes. Same with this time. Like I feel great. My bloating is gone. I feel good. Other than I'm super, super tired. Like my body feels less bloated. And like when I go for a walk, I feel light and I feel good, but I'm so tired. My liver hurts. And like I'll wake up in the morning and I'm still tired. And I just feel like almost like detox symptoms maybe, where I like feel a little fluish, or I just want to go and lay down in the afternoon because I'm not feeling good. And so I don't know, it's just like up and down.
Okay. That's helpful. So the tiredness, like the low energy, was that not an issue before carnivore, or is it just extra now?
It's extra now.
Okay. For those couple weeks when you weren't doing carnivore and you were just kind of eating a little more balanced, for lack of a better word, but incorporating other foods, did any symptoms return, or did you notice any reactions with foods adding them back in?
Yes, I was super bloated for one thing. I just felt gross. I didn't have as much energy, and I didn't feel great at all.
Okay. Now that you've been back on it for a little bit, you're feeling good again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Except those detox symptoms or whatever it is. And I started getting kind of chest pains. And I've been having like tightness in my chest for several months. And it's kind of like it'll radiate kind of down my right arm and kind of into my back a little bit. And then it'll go away. And like last week, it was really bad. And that's kind of come up. And so I was almost wondering, could it be that I am releasing toxins inside my body from this diet, and then they're finding a new place to live? Or I don't know, maybe it's my liver that I am having issues with causing it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, anytime someone is going to be experiencing chest pains, especially as women, and especially when it's down that left side, of course, that's going to be a red flag, and that's going to be something where I'm like, you might want to get that checked out, because it could be something serious. However, it could very well be related to liver gallbladder. A lot of times, and I'm going to ask some questions about your gallbladder, but knowing that that is an area that is feeling some stress right now, it is not uncommon to have referred pain from gallbladder and liver issues up into, it's usually more like upper back, like between the shoulder blades. And so for you to maybe be feeling it like a little bit referred like in the chest and down the arm wouldn't be too far of a stretch. However, since liver gallbladder is on the right and you're feeling it on the left, like it's like, okay, is it referred pain? Is it related? maybe not. That's something that...
Well, I'm feeling it on my right side.
Oh, on your right side. Oh, on your right side. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying left. Okay, then that makes it a little more... Okay, yeah, that very well could be liver gallbladder related.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed on your food journal, because you did a food journal for me, thank you, you are taking some digestive support.
Yes.
What are you taking?
I kind of alternate between a couple of things. That I had a holistic coach, somebody a while ago, that just kind of had me buying all these supplements. And a lot of them were digestive related and like bile salts and stuff like that. So I have a whole bunch of those things left. And so I just kind of alternate between them. But the current one I've been using is called Gastrex.
Is that Apex?
It's standard process.
Oh, standard process. Okay. So when you did have your gallbladder removed in 2005, I want to know more about what kind of symptoms you were having leading up to that.
It happened very suddenly. I was 19 and I started having sharp pains in that stomach area. And it just kept getting worse, maybe like a week, I would say at the most. It started getting worse and worse until I had a desk job and I was sitting down at work and I couldn't even use my stomach muscles to get myself out of the chair to go to the bathroom. And I was like, okay, I have to go to the ER right now. And so I drove myself to the ER and they said that it was... my gallbladder was leaking bile into my body. And so they removed it that same day or maybe the next day.
Interesting. Okay. So it wasn't like you had like a history of gallstones or other stuff going on. It was just all of a sudden.
Yep. All of a sudden. I didn't have anything before that.
Okay. You said your weights fluctuated a lot since you were a kid and stuff. In a history of strict diets, like what kind of diets and stuff have you tried in the past?
So after having, with each of my kids, I have 4 kids. Each of my kids, I've gained about 60 pounds with each of them during pregnancy. And after my first, I lost all of the weight really quickly after. And then after my second, I could not get it off. So I ended up doing the HCG diet, which is just like, it's an injection every morning of HCG. And it basically causes you not to have any hunger. And then you go on a strict 600 calorie diet, basically between 600 and 800 calories a day. And then after you get off of the diet, you can only do it for a certain amount of time. And then you have like certain protocols to get off of it and add back food and everything. And after that diet, I felt like my body was just like not the same after I started having other issues. And then after a while, I gained the weight back. And then I had 2 more kids. And I could never get the weight back off again, and gained even more with my last one because I hadn't lost it all before I got pregnant with her. And then, so I did the HCG diet again and I lost all the weight. I got back down to what my normal body weight should be. And then have been slowly gaining it back and losing it over and over and over again for the last year.
Okay. Did you have easy pregnancies?
Like the birth or like
your pregnancies? How were your pregnancies?
I mean, they were all kind of different. They all started out with really bad nausea. My last one, I had nausea the entire pregnancy. And then I just gained a lot of weight. So it was hard on my body, like I couldn't do as much towards the end and it got really bad. I mean, I guess everybody kind of has that, but I didn't have anything like out of the ordinary or...
Okay.
Yeah.
And no history of like blood sugar issues during pregnancies or anything?
Nope. No.
Okay. I saw that you did your fasting glucose on your labs. Did you, there's not like a A1C on here. Have you done?
I did not.
Okay.
Hit the A1C.
Okay. Just in case I forget to mention that at the end when we go over it. I would, just because, well, I'll probably come back to this. I know that it's like a little bit high on here, like for functional range, but I don't know if it's necessarily like a blood sugar issue. I think it might be more because like the elevated cortisol, as you mentioned, because elevated cortisol, elevated stress can raise blood glucose. So I think it might be more of a connection there with the stress. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking and speaking at the same time. So
Yeah.
my like wheels are turning here. So that to get a A1C would give you like a better picture of like what it's been over time. So that would just be something that I would keep track of so you can get that average, because it'll average for 3 months, instead of just like that one snapshot. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like my glucose really ranges in the mornings too, since I've been starting to test that every morning.
Mm-hmm.
It ranges from like 78 all the way up to 106.
Okay. And that could be just depending on when you're testing, because we do have something called like the dawn phenomenon, if you're familiar with that. Like our cortisol naturally rises in the morning. That's what wakes us up. You will have elevated glucose numbers in the morning just due to that rise in cortisol in the morning. And so it kind of just depends on like when you're testing there. So that is a pretty wide range. So I would look more at to what's going on that morning, maybe what happened the night before. Did I wake up and look at my phone and get an email that like made me mad? Like those types of things. Like there would just be a lot more questions there. I saw that you noted a history of parasites. What is that about?
I had, what is it called? Roundworm? No.
Okay.
What's the one that kids get a lot? I think it might be roundworm. Yeah. And we had that a couple of times. Not in like the recent past, but a couple of years ago, we went through that. The whole family got it. And then it took us forever to get rid of it.
Okay.
And then I'm just assuming that I have parasites because I feel like everybody does. And I have not tried to get rid of them.
Okay. And I always have like a parasite rant. I know like people in the natural health space, like online, like parasites are the sexy thing to be talking about right now. Yes, parasites are a part of our life. They are just around. Do we always need to be cleansing them? I don't think so. And I also think that it's more of an issue of like how healthy is your body in terms of how parasites affect you. And we'll talk a little bit about digestion in a minute, but it's like we also need to make sure that our inside terrain is not making an environment that they want to hang out in. So I think there's a lot more to the discussion there that's not being had in the public space. So yes, it's good to know that that you had this, because that could potentially be playing a role, because yes, like you had a known parasitic infection. So right away, that's telling us there could be something still lingering. And if not, at the very least, it's telling us that there's something going on that is making your body an inviting place for like something going on with the immune system, where it's like, why do these things want to live here?
Yeah.
Especially since you had them a couple times. And that could just be exposure, right? And then, okay, anemia, has that been something that you've had forever, or was it just during pregnancy, or what's the history of anemia?
I think it's mostly just during pregnancy and right after.
Okay.
So I haven't had any issues with it recently, and I think that was part of my blood work, right? It didn't show any signs of low iron or anything like that.
No, I don't remember that standing out. I don't have a note on that. I'm asking because of the thyroid thing, and just because they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, but I don't think that's what's at play here. sometimes with anemia, like if that's something that comes up with clients that have thyroid, especially like Hashimoto's, because since anemia is like starving the body of oxygen, it's going to make it difficult to treat the thyroid until we figure out what's going on with what's causing the anemia, right? It's just an order of operations. And so that's why it's like, is there some kind of like other hidden infection? Is there something going on? Is there something going on digestively that's going to affect the hormone cascade that is then the thyroid's going to suffer from? So that's why. But if it's during pregnancy, then that makes sense. It's not like a all the time thing. Okay. And then tell me, what is your stress like right now? Like, I know you have 4 kids, so automatically I know that's stress, but is there like something going on? Like, do you have unseasonably or abnormal levels of stress going on right now?
Kind of job related. I mean, I am the main breadwinner in my family. So my husband's stay-at-home dad. And so the financial burden rests on me, and just a lot of like stuff going on there. I'm a contract auditor, so I do a lot of contract work for other CPA firms, and I have a contract coming up and I have to decide if I'm renewing. And so the stress of figuring that out, and then if I'm not renewing, what else am I going to do? Or do I need to add clients to my CPA firm? Like all these things. And so that's kind of in the back of my head constantly. And kind of family related, I also employ my mother in my business. And so I kind of made a space for her in my business so that she could have work because she needed it. And now she is kind of transitioning out because it was meant to be a temporary situation. And so the stress of like taking care of my parents, making sure everything's good with them, and then their health too. And so just all of that is just on my mind lately.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's helpful. Okay. So I think I have a good understanding of what I think might be going on here. And yeah, so you sent me your labs. You did have some elevated markers. However, it doesn't look like it's a bunch of chronic stuff going on. It looks like this is all still within a range where we have very much control over what's going on, which is fantastic. And I'm glad that you went and got labs, because it's just one part of the puzzle, but it really does help. Because like when someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm having thyroid symptoms, that could be so many things.
Right.
It could be so many things, and you just never know. So this just kind of helps a little bit. First, I just want to explain like a little bit of where I'm coming from and how I am looking at things. So I look at everything sort of through the lens of digestion. And I know that's a little bit weird, but I am looking at everything of like, if we don't have digestion right, then that creates this downstream cascade of issues from there. So it's like this north to south process. So you filled out the intake form for me, and I don't remember if it showed you your chart. I'll send you everything that in the report, but basically it starts with like upper GI, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, and then it says like blood sugar handling, fatty acids, mineral needs and stuff. Your blood sugar handling was like off the charts. But before we get to blood sugar handling, there's all these other things going on. So yes, you have a lot of symptoms of someone who has some blood sugar imbalance, but it might not necessarily be because of what you're eating or what's going on. Like there's other things going on in your body and within our digestive system, for instance, liver, gallbladder, that play a huge role in blood sugar regulation, as well as like with our stress response and everything. And so that's where I'm kind of looking That's the lens I'm looking at here. I'm like, where is the dysfunction most upstream, and what can we do to support that? Because if we can fix that, then everything else should fall in line. So that's where I'm coming from. So very like condensed version of what I see going on here, like connecting the dots. I don't know what happened leading up to the gallbladder removal. It sounded like it wasn't like a history of digestive issues going on before then. It sounds like it was a sudden event and there was just something, I mean, a leaky gallbladder. That's not good. But let's talk about how that, since it happened when you were pretty young, how that gallbladder dysfunction or gallbladder removal could be like the connecting dot between some of the symptoms you're experiencing, like the hypothyroidism, elevated glucose, the elevated cholesterol, the elevated cortisol, because the gallbladder is going to play a key role in digesting fats. And I'm sure you probably know a lot of this. I'm just going to be giving a lot of context because I don't know exactly what all you know, and then also for people listening. So the gallbladder is going to be important for digesting fats, but it's also going to be storing and releasing our bile. And so when that's not functioning properly, or when it's been removed, your body can struggle to efficiently digest and absorb fats. Basic understanding there. But that can lead to this cascade of issues because without proper fat digestion, we're not able to absorb our essential fat soluble vitamins. That's going to be our A, D, E, K. And these are going to be crucial for functions like thyroid health. Like example, vitamin D, we need that for regulating our immune system. So maybe there's something going on there with this recurring parasitic infection, right? So I'm not saying that that's why, but could it play a role? Maybe. But vitamin D deficiencies also can contribute to symptoms of hypothyroid. When fat digestion is impaired, it could also lead to imbalances in our blood sugar levels, which is going to contribute to the elevated glucose. And that's because the undigested fats can lead to insulin resistance, making it harder for your body to manage blood sugar effectively. Now, also given a history of dieting, extreme dieting, low calorie dieting, we're also looking at potential vitamin and mineral deficiencies there too, just kind of compounding the thing. With the elevated cholesterol, that's usually enough to make people like freak out. I apologize for the abrupt interruption here in this episode. There was a technical malfunction in the recording of this session, and it was cut off. And I don't know how or why, but it was not even until I was uploading the components for production that I noticed. And first I cried, and then I just had to laugh, because if you've been following me since before the launch of the show, you know that the biggest hurdle for launch was the tech, and it has consistently been fluke recording issues. I've tried multiple platforms, but it's remained this random, bizarre, yet constant issue. And it's laughable now. And I will even say a little bit encouraging, because all I can think, or what I just keep telling myself, is that I must be doing something right. You see, God placed this calling on my heart and life 11 years ago, this undeniable purpose to speak out about natural health and wellness, particularly focusing on mothers, children, and families. Over the years, I have witnessed abundant blessings as a result of answering that call. It has not always been easy, is really what I want to say. There have been some really ugly times. There have been moments of pain, loss of relationships, heart-wrenching challenges. There has been a pruning. I have even prayed for like this to be removed from my heart. Like, if this is not what I'm supposed to do, like I've prayed countless times, like remove this desire from me. And it's still here. So I've learned from the process of pruning that while it's painful, it's necessary for growth. And that's why I want to just take a moment and acknowledge something. This episode, okay, it's not derailed. The show hasn't jumped the shark just after 1 month of airtime, quite the opposite. Today's episode has a slight pivot, and I believe there's a deeper reason behind it. Really, maybe like something only God could have orchestrated. And I will be diving into a mini masterclass to couple with this coaching session, as well as sharing my final recommendations for Nicole, the client. But first, I want to talk about this unexpected setback here, because I believe is actually an opportunity in disguise, because everything seemed to be going wrong. And when I was calmly trying to manage my initial panic attack when I first realized that the episode didn't record, I was trying to stay calm, cool, and collect and not look like a total psycho in front of my husband at 6 a.m. as I'm like freaking out. But as I'm like trying to stay calm, but while I'm internally freaking out, a song kept looping through my mind. And you probably know it, but it's that song goes, you take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Sorry, I'm not a good singer, but like it goes, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. That song just kept playing in my head, just that part, just like loop over and over again. And right there in the middle of like my stress and my frustration, I had this thought. Maybe this wasn't a setback. Perhaps this is a redirection, a reminder that when the enemy tries to tear down, God can redeem and use for his purpose. So I've embraced this opportunity to pause and reflect and redirect the focus of today's episode, because maybe, just maybe, someone listening right now needs to hear this. Whatever battle you're facing, whether it's in your health, relationships, or anything else, we can trust that God is turning it around for your good. There is victory waiting for you. And when we are working towards fulfilling God's plan in our lives, it's not uncommon to encounter obstacles and spiritual opposition. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces. The enemy often tries to throw distractions and challenges and doubts in our path to prevent us from stepping into the fullness of God's will. But we press on with faith and conviction. And so that is kind of where I feel like this episode just needed to go today. And I am not a pastor. I am not a preacher. I just feel like this was an opportunity, and I just felt like this was kind of what was put on my heart to say about it in the midst of my trial and my frustration. And I don't know what you're going through right now. I don't know what mountains you're facing or what valley you may be walking in, but I do know that in these moments when everything seems to be against you, you can trust that your obedience and your perseverance in the face of challenges and adversity, they will bear fruit. And the enemy's goal is to make you doubt, but we can get through. We're just to not grow weary in doing good, because there will be a time of reaping harvest if we just don't give up. And when we face these trials, we remember that pressing on is not only about the end goal, but it's about trusting the process and trusting that God is going to be fighting these battles for you. And when you're facing health struggles and it feels like you're constantly running into setbacks, I know it can be tempting to throw in the towel and to just give up. And so whether it's physical challenges or discouraging results or even emotional battles, I know that these obstacles can feel overwhelming. But also know this: the enemy will always try to convince you that you're stuck or that you can't win this fight. And the enemy wants you to believe that healing and victory are beyond your reach. But that is not the truth. God's plan for you is one of wholeness and abundant life, and the struggles you're experiencing are not the end of the story. They are part of the process. And in your health journey, it's easy to feel discouraged when you don't see immediate results, or when it feels like nothing is working, and the enemy might try to derail you with frustration or convince you that your efforts are in vain, but God is working all things for your good, even the challenges that you are facing today. So with that, we can transition here. All right. I'll go from transitioning smoothly there with some scripture to quoting Matthew McConaughey. All right. Detour adjourned. Let's resume original conversation. We left off talking about how gallbladder dysfunction or removal can cascade into issues related to fat digestion, vitamin absorption, hormone imbalance. Now we can dive into another critical connection, which is cholesterol. This is where I was so rudely cut off. So let's talk about cholesterol and liver stress, because it's no secret that when people see elevated cholesterol on their labs, it can trigger a little bit of a panic, or it's definitely a cause for concern. I see that. But here's the thing. Cholesterol levels don't just rise out of nowhere. And one major contributor to elevated cholesterol can be liver stress. Your liver is the powerhouse behind both cholesterol production and cholesterol elimination. So when it's overwhelmed, whether that be by poor diet, toxins, medications, even lack of bile flow after gallbladder removal surgery, is going to struggle to eliminate that excess cholesterol. And that's one reason why you might see those higher levels on a lab. And there is more to it. Cholesterol is also a precursor for hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. If your cholesterol is up, it might be your body trying to support cortisol production, signaling that you're under more stress than you might think. And over time, elevated cortisol can mess with your metabolism. That's going to make it harder to regulate your blood sugar, harder to regulate thyroid function. And yes, that's going to also make it harder to either maintain your weight. So you could either be seeing a weight increase, or you can be seeing a harder time in losing weight, that weight loss resistance. So when you tie all these factors together, you can see how stress, cholesterol, liver function, gallbladders issues, they all influence each other. And that's why, again, it's so hard to just ask about one piece of the puzzle, because there's just so much more nuance to this. So if we can revisit this chain reaction tie, because like I did touch on this a little bit earlier, but without enough bile flow from the gallbladder, you're going to have a trouble with fat digestion. That is going to take a hit in the entire digestion process. When you're not absorbing these fat-soluble vitamins, like your A, D, E, K, it's like your body is missing some of the most essential tools it needs for hormone balance. It needs these vitamins for immune function. And then what about blood sugar regulation? Well, that's going to get out of whack too, because disrupted fat metabolism can contribute to insulin resistance. So that's going to make losing weight that much harder. On the even bigger picture, elevated cholesterol can raise cortisol, as I mentioned, which is going to throw your whole metabolic system out of balance even more. So again, it's all connected. Liver stress, digestion, hormone production, blood sugar balance, they can all influence each other. Just taking the stress and cortisol piece out, if we talk about those, when stress hormones are out of balance, it's going to show up everywhere in your health. And elevated cortisol can affect your thyroid. It can decrease your production of other hormones. It can lead to symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, mood swings. So if you're feeling tired all the time or struggling with cravings, it could be your adrenal glands sending this SOS signal like, hey, we're on overdrive over here. We need some help. So managing stress isn't an optional thing. It's not just like, oh, self-care, that sounds nice. It is critical for balancing cortisol and keeping your metabolism working smoothly. Now, a quick note here on hypothyroidism, because her lab markers were off a little bit. The thyroid is a very sensitive gland. It detects even the tiniest shifts in blood chemistry. And when those shifts become chronic, the thyroid can start to struggle. So you might have normal thyroid markers, except for maybe TSH is high. And so I think that is what was on Nicole's, is just her TSH are high. This could be a high TSH with normal thyroid levels is something that you want to address nutritionally before it turns into a bigger problem, because it is possible to make adjustments there, because it could be something with the pituitary gland just telling your thyroid, hey, come on, we need to do a little bit more. Now, also looking at Nicole's situation, she's been following a carnivore diet. Now, when you're on keto or a carnivore diet, it's normal to see a temporary spike in cholesterol levels, and meaning normal in like common normal, like this was not be cause for concern to see the temporary spike in cholesterol levels. It can be a little concerning. I understand that, especially if you've always had like normal levels, like within functional range levels. It can be a little concerning if you're all of a sudden now seeing that out of whack. But there's a functional reason behind this. When you're making a switch, a dietary switch like this, like if you are switching to keto or you are switching to carnivore, and one of the reasons is because your body is shifting how it uses and moves fats. So cholesterol becomes the transporter. It's helping to move those fats where they're needed. And on keto or carnivore, like your LDL cholesterol particles might actually shift into larger, fluffier particles, which are less likely to contribute to heart disease and than those small, dense ones. I laugh because I was just picturing Cartman going, I'm not fat, I'm fluffy. Picturing like fluffy LDL particles. In the early phases, if you're just starting a high fat or low carb diet and your body is in fat burning mode, like you're just transitioning into fat burning mode, you're releasing fatty acids and cholesterol into the bloodstream as fat is being used for energy. As you become a fat burner, as you're transitioning from a sugar burner to a fat burner, that is going to be seen in the blood. And this temporary rise in cholesterol is just part of that process. And as your body is producing ketones, like if you're in ketosis, cholesterol levels again might slightly increase as well, since cholesterol is needed for hormone production and cellular repair. But here's another layer, another kicker here. Your inflammation markers like CRP, triglycerides, those are going to start to decrease. That's what they tend to do. And that's really important because cholesterol is often used to repair damaged tissues. So this rise in cholesterol might not necessarily be a bad thing. I know we villainize cholesterol in this country, but it could just be a sign that your body is doing repair work. So what does this all mean? While that initial cholesterol spike can be alarming, we need to look at the bigger picture. Focus on things like inflammation, insulin sensitivity, triglycerides, rather than just the cholesterol alone. And this is where a more detailed lipid panel could also help too. So my recommendations for Nicole wrapping up this coaching episode, first and foremost, my recommendation for her was to just focus on nourish, since a lot of the things showing up are just indications that her body is under stress. This really is not the time for aggressive fasting or anything too extreme. I want her to focus on nutrient-dense meals that are going to support her metabolism and overall health. Now, I know she's feeling great on carnivore, and she's like, I looked at her food journal and she is eating. So sometimes when we switch to carnivore, I see people just not eating enough. She is still eating 3 meals a day. She's still nourishing her body. So I'm like, if you're feeling good and you are continuing to eat, then okay, I don't see a problem with this. If it gets to where your appetite is starting to decrease and you start skipping meals, that would be where I want to start adding in some more diet variation, maybe adding in some more vegetable sources, some whole food carbohydrates from time to time to just keep in some diet variation and avoid going a little too far on the nutrition side. That would put your body into a little bit more of a stress response. But as long as she is really nourishing and eating and she's feeling good, she's feeling better, that's really the key. We are taught so much to just like follow all these rules and just really kind of ignore how our body's feeling. She's feeling good with the way she's eating. So I just encourage her to just pay close attention to that. And when she is starting to not feel good, like if there is a shift in that, that would be the sign to start adding in more vegetables and other food groups. Stress management is just key here. Elevated cortisol throws everything out of whack. So incorporating those stress management practices, like making sure she's just eating enough and being nourished. She can add in things like deep breathing, exercise, light exercises. Now probably would not be the time to start doing like HIIT exercises and stuff. I would ease into just adding in movement, walking, strength training, proper sleep. That's going to be huge for bringing cortisol back into balance. This would also be a good time to add in some supplements. I know she's already doing some. So if you're listening, if you've had your gallbladder removed, supporting bile flow with something like Beta Plus, that's a Biotics one. That's one of my favorites. That's going to help aid digestion. Adding in some fat soluble vitamins, not a bad idea, but also you could increase foods like egg yolks and liver. Those are going to be your friends here too. Also consider adding in phosphatidylcholine. That's going to help with fat digestion and liver health. Those are some good, just targeted nutritional supplements that can be added in at this time too. The bottom line, listen to your body. It is always sending signals. If you're struggling with energy, cravings, difficulty losing weight, it's often a sign that there is an underlying imbalance. We can address these things through nutrition, through stress management, through targeted and intentional supplementation. I don't ever use supplements just as like a blanket, oh, here, you need this supplement. Like, no, it has to be specific and targeted. With the right approach, you'll start to notice improved energy and reduce cravings, and you'll really start to make progress towards your goals. It just takes time and consistency, and I know that can be challenging when you just want those results like right now. And there are setbacks, and there are twists and turns and pivots in the healing journey. So I just want to thank you for joining us on this special coaching episode of Real Health Transformations. And I hope you found this session helpful or insightful, even though we did take a little detour here in the middle. I hope that it gives you a better understanding of what it's like to work with me. On that note, if you're interested in being a guest on a future coaching episode or getting personalized guidance on your own health journey, I'd love to hear from you. Just send me an email. Let's see how we can work together and how we can take the next steps on reaching your health goals. I also want to just take a moment to remind everyone that the information shared here in this episode and on the show in general is for educational purposes only. And yes, I am a nutritional therapist. I'm sharing insights based on my professional experience, and this episode is not intended to replace personalized medical advice. You could always consult with your healthcare provider for making changes in your diet, your supplement routine, lifestyle, especially if you are having any underlying health conditions or taking medications. So your health is unique. It's important to get the advice that is tailored specifically to you. So until next time, take care, keep tuning into your body. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to Real Health Transformations. I hope this episode met you where you are and helped you cut through the noise, maybe get a little closer to the real practical solutions you've been looking for. Remember, everything shared here is for education and for inspiration, not medical advice. I am not your doctor. I am a podcast host. I am your encouraging digital friend. Always do what is right for you and consult a trusted healthcare provider before making any big changes. If you loved what you heard today, please subscribe, share with a friend, and let's keep having the conversations that matter without the fluff. Find me on Instagram. Let's keep this conversation going and keep questioning things. Keep finding what works for you. You've got this. I'll see you next time.